Test, test, test. All right, let's give it the old test 1, 2. You'll probably hear a loop. All right, let's give it the old test 1, 2. All right, we're good. Let's get this headset back on. What is good, everybody? It is the Godfather of VR, the ageless one of the man licketh clay. We're back for a stream that I'm not going to say I didn't think I would do this stream, because just for the simple fact that we're going to get that big Spec 2 update in December. At the very least, I was going to stream GT7 then, but yes, I am streaming GT7. No expectations. We already know how GT7 is. We already know what the driving standards are on this game. So I'm not going into any of these races with any expectations of a good finish. I do expect to be punted. It is what it is. Being that I know what to expect walking in, I shouldn't blow up like I've done in the past, because I think at least
Miguel, Dad drive S bad. Said. Oof, masochistic lobbies.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's something else. So some of you might be wondering, why are you streaming GT7? Well, because I'd say for a couple of reasons. One is the daily races that they have. They actually, if it was any other game, I would be interested in these daily races, because I do like Nürburgring, the GP layout. This isn't quite the GT layout like say ACC, but I still like this layout on GT7. And then this track here, Autopolis, whatever it is, not really that much interested in the track. It's the cars. It's the G2, the Group 2 cars, with the Ray Brick NSX and the Lexus. I actually like those cars. And then not only that, when I did my race room stream yesterday, the Audi DTM that I was driving reminded me of these Group 2 cars that you would see on GT7. I do like those type of cars. So I've said that yesterday or whatever, I think, when I streamed Race Room, I gave them their credit. I do love the Group 2 cars on this game. And the other reason why I'm streaming this is after yesterday's Le Mans Ultimate stream, where you knew disaster was going to happen in the bronze races. Figured, I had said it yesterday that if I'm going to stream the bronze races on Le Mans Ultimate, it wouldn't be any different than streaming this game. It's a lateral move, because there's going to be chaos on both games. So I come into GT7 expecting chaos. When I stream Le Mans Ultimate and I go into the bronze beginners races, I expect chaos. I'd have to say right now, for the sprint races, I've been enjoying Race Room. I haven't seen anything blatantly dirty. I mean, a guy that I was trying to overtake yesterday was a little suspect with defending of his position, but he wasn't overly dirty. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm streaming it. And I think the third and final reason why I'm streaming GT7 is because in January my PlayStation Plus membership expires, and once it expires, I do not plan to renew it because as far as online play goes, I barely get any use out of my PS5. GT7 is the only game that I play online on my PS5 that I can't play anywhere else. Any other game that I play online on my PS5, I have it on PC. So I can't justify paying $80 a year anymore.
RL9010 said, GTWS. RL9010 said, screw dailies.
RL, you would be right. Screw the dailies. But as I was just explaining a second ago, things aren't much better on Le Mans Ultimate and the bronze races. The chaos over there is almost as bad as GT7. So if I'm going to jump into the bronze races, jump into GT7. And so as I was about to say, my final reason for why I'm streaming GT7 is once my PlayStation Plus membership expires in January, I will not be renewing it because I don't play GT7 enough to justify paying $85 a year to play online. I mean, I pretty much walked away from GT7, so I'm just giving money away by paying $80 a year for PlayStation Plus. And as I was saying, all my other games that have online play, I have those games on PC. And the PC version is the superior version of those games. It looks better. You know, my PC's powerful enough that I can run circles around the PlayStation with it. So yeah, my PlayStation Plus expires in January and I will not be renewing it. So after January, if you guys see me stream GT7 again, it won't be a daily race. It will not be online. It'll probably be a single player race. So, all right, let's go in here and see what they got. No. Oh, starts in 3 minutes. Holy shit. I ain't got much time. We'll go with the Ray Brig. And you can use soft tires. All right, let's get my headset on. And oh, the entry period starts in 2 minutes. Okay. But still, let's go ahead and get a couple of laps in. So hang on.
Miguel, Da Drive S Bad said, I do love Autopolis. Fun technical tea.
Yeah, it's a decent track. So as far as GT7 goes, with their selection of tracks, I think they got a decent selection of tracks. But I do think they're missing an awful lot of tracks that you see on other games. But my biggest issue with GT7 lies with the dirty driving and the ridiculous microtransactions. And I can't even blame the dirty driving as much as the terrible penalty system that encourages it. All right, let's get some practice. Oh shit, I was trying to look at the track map. Don't get used to it. Ah! Yeah, this is a track I'm gonna have to learn all over again. Damn, that tells you where this game is at. My PlayStation friends don't even register any lap times on here anymore. So, holy shit, 130 .4 is the fastest lap. Holy shit. There's really only one corner on this track that I have to be aware of. But yeah, I got to give credit where it's due. I still like driving these Group 2 cars. This is the corner. This is the trouble spot. Damn it! Mr. Realist, how's it going?
12 for you lately?
The bronze races. It's just a dumb chaos that's going on. Okay, matchmaking starts in 45 seconds. So, I'm really fed up with the bronze races and the beginners races. If you're still here, Eric B. I mean, as far as the bronze and beginners races on Le Mans Ultimate, it's almost as bad as GT7. So, I said there's 3 reasons why I'm streaming this tonight. Number 1, since I did the Le Mans Ultimate stream in the bronze races against my better judgment, and what happened, what I thought would happen, happened. It was a bad race. My pace was not that good, and there was some idiots in the race. So jumping over here would be a lateral move. Same shit, different game, you know, in terms of idiot drivers. The other reason why I did it is because these Group 2 cars on GT7, I do like these cars. I mean, I don't all the way hate GT7. I just hate the dirty driving, the terrible penalty system, and the microtransactions. So I don't think it's a 100% terrible game. The third reason why I'm streaming it is, you know, my PlayStation Plus membership expires in January, and when it expires, I'm not going to renew it because, in terms of online play, I don't think I'm getting enough value to justify paying $80 a year for PlayStation Plus. And GT7 is the only game that I can play on my PlayStation that I can't play anywhere else. Any other online game that I have on my PlayStation, I also have it on PC, which would be the superior version. So if I'm not going to play GT7, then it doesn't make any sense for me to have PlayStation Plus.
RSR Eric B. the Realist said, Group 2 cars are fun.
They are. And so and I was saying that the other thing that triggered me to do this is my race room stream yesterday. In those DTM cars, that DTM Audi that I was driving reminds me a lot of these Group 2 cars on GT7. The difference being that those DTM cars have DRS. Just about everybody using the damn raid rig. Damn. But it handles a little bit better than the Lexus. The Lexus has got a little more top end, if I remember correctly. here we go. Chaos is about to ensue. Gonna need it. dude set out to get me. Yep, he waited for me so he could take me out on that corner. It's okay, dude. We got 7 laps to go. Doesn't take turn 1 very good. Shit! He was trying to hit me.
GT7 online is so bad.
Yeah.
A lot of derby drivers.
Yeah, this guy in front of me has knocked me off the track about 4 times. So I'm going to pay him back. Now, in all fairness, Hernez Catoni, the bronze races on LMU have gotten pretty bad. I've lost my taste for them. He tried to wait for me so he could take me out. Ha 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 ha! Idiot. He called me a baby hitter. I lost rank, but I don't care. Once upon a time, I was an A class. I was an A minus driver on this game once upon a time, but I no longer care. Now, to be honest, I did, at the beginning of the race, I did try to give an honest effort to try to finish up as best I could. But once guys started pinballing me, that tank guy that was in the yellow NSX, when he hit me, I was fed up. I just decided I'm just going to fight fire with fire and start pinballing these guys too. So between me and that tank guy knocking each other off the track, we fell all the way down to the bottom. So what do we got here? Oh, they're on hards. Entry deadline.
Eric McCready said, "What are you doing? You must be bored, bro."
Well, so I got to explain this again. There's 3 reasons why I'm playing GT7. Number 1 is the bronze racing on the bronze beginner classes on Le Mans Ultimate has gotten so bad that it's within earshot of GT7. I would say right now, GT7, out of all the games that I've played, you know, in the past few years, GT7 still has the dirtiest drivers. ACC on PS5 is the 2nd dirtiest. And now I put Le Mans Ultimate 3rd. I think Le Mans Ultimate has the third dirtiest drivers out of all the games that I've played. I thoroughly enjoyed myself on Race Room yesterday. I'm liking these sprint races on Race Room. I've seen minimal amount of crazy shit. So that's the long version. As far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to stream Le Mans Ultimate with these bronze and beginners races, what's the difference? If I stream this, it's a lateral move. I'm stepping out of one shit house and into another. The other reason is I like these Group 2 cars. So, and I think the Ray Brick NSX, I think GT7 is the only game that I know of that has this car. So I do love those cars. Another reason why I'm streaming GT7 is that my PlayStation Plus membership expires in January, and once it expires, I will not renew it because I don't get value for my money with PlayStation Plus. It's $80 a year, and I barely touch my PlayStation. So even if I didn't stream today, I would still stream in December when they get that Spec 3 update, because I do want to try out the 296 on GT7. I'm curious how it's going to look, how it's going to sound, how many people are going to use it, how it handles.
Carlos Sangalung, C. Sangalang, said, "How's GT7 VR feel coming back compared to LMU VR?"
Well, how's it feel? Visually, the reprojection is still bothersome. So it's when you're going around corners, it's still blurry. In terms of the drivers here versus Le Mans Ultimate, what's the difference? As far as the bronze drivers on Le Mans Ultimate, they're almost as bad as GT7, so it really makes no difference. So, but don't get used to seeing me here, because you're not gonna see this too many more times. So I mean, like when Project Motor Racing comes out, depending on how many, depending on how much of the GTE class that we get, because as part of a pre-order bonus, you get the GTE class. Depending on how many of those races they give us, that's probably where I'm going to go as far as my sprint races go, even though I'm asking for trouble with the crossplay, because the console players are going to destroy these races. But now that the P3s are on Le Mans Ultimate, I think they've pretty much forgotten about the GTE class. So at this point, I shouldn't have did it yesterday. But at this point, the only way I really see myself doing the bronze beginners races on Le Mans Ultimate again is if it's a track I absolutely love, or if it's the GTE class. If it's not either, I won't do it. They flashing these messages to everybody. Have a good race, good luck, yada, 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 knowing goddamn well as soon as we get to turn one, it's going to be chaos. Typical shit, people pinballing you. All right, Jazz, you got one coming. Yeah, I am retaliating. Anybody pinballs me, I'm retaliating. I didn't mean to do that, but that dude was, oh well. Really? They're horrible drivers. I'm just driving right along with them. They've been taking me out. I've been retaliating. It's as simple as that. I don't even care for this game. So, yeah, whatever. I mean, so don't talk to me about driving standards when this game is by far has some of the most dirtiest drivers I've ever seen. That's why I left this game about a year ago. So for context, once upon a time, I used to be an A- driver on this game until the dirty drivers got a hold of me. What you saw to me today was retaliation, not dirty driving. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Anybody that's been following my channel any amount of time knows how much frustrations that I dealt with this game for the past couple of years. I've had days where people have taken me out and I just hit the off button on my stream and didn't even say anything to anybody. Just quit the stream, just left.
Eric McCready said, headed to work, appreciate you playing, I'll catch you on the next stream.
Eric, before you go, thank you for your support. We all know that GT7 has the most horrible driving standards. And whoever made that comment, if they go through my library, they will see tons of GT7 streams. And if they were to take the time to watch those streams, they would see that there was not one stream where I had a completely clean night. Somebody pinballed me or took me out. Pinballing people on GT7 is status quo. It's protocol now. The best way to get through a turn now on GT7 is to pinball somebody off the road so you can take that corner full speed and still hold the line. I used to be the guy that was always getting knocked off the track. And I was the one who never retaliated. Today, they have shown me that it's still the same shit. It became obvious that if I don't retaliate against these guys, I'm going to finish last every single race. You guys have already heard me say that, I'm not a terrible fan of this game anyway.
DD said, I literally clicked on the video and the first picture that came up was that. So I was thinking, damn, that was dirty, but now I see LOL. I literally just clicked on your video. Eric McCready said, you always have my support, I enjoy watching you compete. Stay healthy, my brother.
Eric McCready, thank you so much. And DD, it's all good, man. It's like us, and I was telling people earlier in the stream, in this order, these are the sims that have the dirtiest drivers. GT7 is the dirtiest. ACC on PlayStation is the second dirtiest. Le Mans Ultimate has moved up in third. Le Mans Ultimate used to be a very clean and very enjoyable game, but now the bronze and beginners racers have gotten dirty, and it's reached a fever pitch where I don't even do those races. I did it yesterday against my better judgment, but I've been scaling back on those bronze races on Le Mans Ultimate. I've been enjoying myself on Race Room because I've been seeing some pretty clean racing on there. So the biggest reason why I'm streaming tonight on GT7, which I haven't streamed GT7 in a couple of months, and I could probably count on one hand how many times I've streamed GT7 this year. That's how frustrated I have gotten with the dirty driving on this game.
DD said, I understand, brother. You just reacted.
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't me like having my mind made up from the start that I want to win this race so bad that I'm going to get rid of anybody in my way. No, I just retaliated against the people who hit me first. So, but I normally, for context, I normally stream Le Mans Ultimate. That is my favorite game. Right now, Race Room has probably moved up into second place as far as my favorite games goes. And I'm really looking forward to Project Motor Racing when we get that. And even though I think the VR is dog crap on Red Sport, I'm still somewhat looking forward to that when it comes out of early access next month. But as far as tonight goes in GT7, the biggest reason why I stream GT7 is because that Ray Bricks NSX that I was driving, I absolutely love that car. Even though I don't care for GT7 that much, I still love that car. There's still some tracks I like on GT7. So tonight was just one of those days where, okay, I haven't had a hamburger in 6 months. Let me go grab a burger. So that's what tonight was. So, I mean, you won't see me streaming GT7 too many more times. And you will see me stream GT7 in December when we get that big update with the Ferrari 296, because I am curious about that. I mean, just about every other game has a Ferrari 296. So it's not going to be anything game breaking. I just want to see, game changing, or you know, the hottest thing since sliced bread. I just want to see what their version of the 296 is going to be. So yeah, this was more of a case. You know, I really do like the Gr2 cars on here.
Said, I just subbed.
Thank you so much for the sub. You're the first person who saw me in a bad light and still subbed. Appreciate it. Let's see, what do we got here for the Group 3s? Ah! Too late. Well, I don't feel like doing that other race over again. I mean, even if I did do that race again.
DD said, ha ha ha, all good, brother.
Hey, thanks so much again for the sub. Really appreciate it. So whatever race I do again tonight, even if I get hit, I'm not going to retaliate. I made my point tonight that I proved that it seems to me like, especially in the B class on GT7, these guys can't race without. I guess the impression that I get is they feel like they can't have good results unless they get down and dirty. My biggest frustration with GT7 has been the horrible penalty system, because it encourages dirty driving. Anyone who knows anything about GT7 knows who Kimi Vellicini is. Kimi Vellicini is everything that's wrong with GT7. This guy is a menace, and he destroys everything he touches on GT7, and they can't get rid of the guy. And he knows how to play the system of how to wreck people and not get hit with penalties.
Said, I love your rig though. Looks amazing.
Hey, thank you. I race in VR across the board. You know, here's my Quest Pro headset that I use on my PC games. So I race mostly on PC. So I'm really disappointed to learn that Project Motor Racing will not get PSVR 2 support. At first they said it would, then they walked it back and said we have no plans. So I am still convinced that Sony will not let any other sim racing publishers add PSVR support to their games, because it would be a threat to the microtransactions on GT7. Okay, let's break it down in simple terms that I've said it so many times. At the F125 game, ACC on PS5, Project Motor Racing when we get that game, Rensport when it comes to PS5. Those are 4 games that I just named off right there. If all 4 of those games get PSVR 2 support, how many people would spread out and go do those other games in VR? The overall player base wouldn't dwindle that much, but the PSVR 2 player base would dwindle so much because they would spread out to these other games. And what that means is they would not get the money from people. They would not get that money from people spending money on microtransactions, because they will have moved on to other games.
DD said, that's why I love PC gaming. I don't like predatory practices like that from giant companies like Sony and others like Microsoft, etc.
Sony, you know what Sony has become? That saying where you either die the good guy or you live long enough. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the bad guy. That's what Sony has become. They're just as grimy as Microsoft. The only thing is, the difference between Microsoft and Sony is that Microsoft will lie. Microsoft will say that they're not going to do anything, and then we're not going to raise prices, and then they turn around and raise prices like a month later. Sony won't say anything. They'll just raise the prices and just won't respond to any comments. So entry period over. Let's come back. Enter. You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. Oops. Gotta put the hards on here. This is going to be a crazy race with hards. There's going to be people all over the place. I'm going to grab a drink and then I will come back and get some practice laps in. The Ford GT, for the most part, is not an ideal car. They don't really give this car much love, but the Ford GT is one of my favorite cars. And that's one of the reasons, like, as far as the Ford GT goes, iRacing, Project Cars 2, and GT7 are the only games that I can think of that have the Ford GT on there natively. But it will be on Project Motor Racing because it has been confirmed as a pre-order bonus with Project Motor Racing. You get the entire GTE class. You're going to get 7 cars. So the GTE class is my favorite class. And so coming back to Le Mans Ultimate, that's pretty much the ideal scenario of where I will do a bronze race again, because I'm with the GTEs, it's my favorite class, and I'm fast enough on Le Mans Ultimate with the GTE. I'm fast enough that I can avoid a lot of the dumb shit and the dirty drivers and idiot drivers. But yeah, I mean, I've been off this game so long that I'm no longer fast enough to get away from the dummies. Once upon a time, I was an A- driver on this game, but I had a couple of bad races and I fell down to the B class. Being the B class is crabs in a barrel. Everybody in B class is like, they will drag you down. If a guy is in, I've said this so many times, I made this analysis so many times, that if a guy is in 14th place and you're about to pass him, he will knock you off the track just so he won't be in 15th place. And so that's the B class on GT7. They're crabs in a barrel. If I can't have a good race, you won't either. So that's kind of what the mentality is. So at this point, unless I become a full-blooded alien, I'm pretty much stuck in the B class on GT7. I'll never get out of it because the dirty racers will keep knocking me down so far that I'll never be able to get out of the B class. So, you know, the crazy part about it is that race that I just did, that's one of my best finishes in a while. And the crazy part about it was I had to get down and dirty just like they were doing in order to get that good finish. If I would have refused to retaliate and, you know, and I would have taken the high road and not retaliated, I would have come in last place. So anybody that's been following my channel for any length of time, they know that that's not me. I have gotten upset in the past. I have raged out in the past, but I rarely retaliate. Oh, okay. Let me grab a drink, folks. I'll be right back, and then we'll get a few practice laps in. So that last race, I don't know if you guys would have been able to see it because I was in VR, but some of the guys that hit me first, I retaliated. At that point, they were zeroed in on me and they had their minds made up they were going to take me out. So when we would get to corners, I would slow down and stay on the inside because I pretty much figured they were going to try to pinball me and knock me outside. So I stayed to the inside and pretty much just like slammed on the brakes. So when they hit me, some of them ended up going off into the grass themselves. Some of them was trying to set me up so they can take me out at the corners. And I did the old Matador move and I slammed on the brakes before they could hit me and let them fly off the track. All right, let's get some practice in. Ah, shoot. So all that being said, DD, I apologize for the outburst. All right, let's get in here and get busy. It's been a while since I've been on this track. This layout is a little bit different from the GP layout that I see on Automobilist 2 and ACC. Oh. That chicane, there's going to be a lot of wrecks there. Let's see if we can register for a race. For this particular track, I would normally use like the Honda NSX or the Porsche. But you know, again, this is I don't care about my rank or anything like that. So
Waski said, "What up, Link?
Hey,
I haven't seen you run some GT7 in a minute, brother."
Well, I'll tell you, Kwaski, you might want to go back and watch this stream. Entry deadline. Okay, as I was about to say, Kwaski, you might want to go back and watch this stream from an earlier point because I was out of character tonight. Cars were pinballing me off the track and I got fed up with it, so I started retaliating. I started doing to them what they were doing to me. Going into corners, I started squaring them up and going underneath and pushing them wide. So I'd probably say in all the what? How long have I been on YouTube? Since 2017? In the 8 years that I've been on YouTube, I can count on one hand how many times I've retaliated.
Kwaski said, "Oh boy, let me grab some popcorn, LOL."
Hey, and I didn't rage out. Somebody would pinball me, and I just said, okay, you know, I got you. And when the opportunity presented itself, as I was saying, I squared them up, and I went underneath and pushed them wide. He said, "Let's go. Time for fun. Good luck, clean races, and keep up." You can forget about that. We are here to show how good, not bad. Let's have a clean race. I'll do my best. You can forget about that. We are in the Group 3 with hard tires. Cars are going to be sliding and pinballing all over the place. So he can forget about that clean race stuff. Let's have a clean race. Like, why did they even waste their time putting that kind of stuff in the chat? They know how this is going to turn out. All right, let's go. Wow, dude, really? Ah, shit. How many times you gonna hit me, dude? Shit. Look at this dude. Trying to block both of us off. What? You gotta be kidding me. He made a mistake, he got caught, and he couldn't own up to it. Well, this Ford GT was absolute dog shit for this track, but I still love the car anyway. Shit, I might lose enough rank that might knock me down to C. And I got a clean race bonus. All right. All right, let's see what we got. This race is going to turn out a little bit better. For one thing, I went in there and changed the steering sensitivity. It was set to 10, and I had to turn it down, turn it down. So let me use the bathroom real quick, folks. I'll be right back. Okay, round one. Fight! Now, if memory serves me correct, this NSX takes corners pretty good, but it's not very good as far as top end speed goes, whereas the 4GT that I just got done using handles like shit, but I guess it's got decent straight line speed. Because a lot of people will use that 4GT on Circuitless Earth. So I will say I did get pinballed a couple of times that last race, but it wasn't near as dirty as the other the previous couple of races that I did with the Group 2 cars. I'm dead last. Oh my god. least I didn't come in last. Starting to get a little bit tired, but I will say, whoever that guy was, I think his name was Champ the One or whatever, shout out to him. Even though we were in last place, we had a nice little battle going and it was clean. He gave me space, I gave him space. Nobody dive bombed, nobody pinballed the other one. And that moment when I spun out, I hit a slick part of the track. And because I was trying to set myself up to swing to the outside so I could cut across the apex and get a good exit, but went too far off and hit a slick part of the track, and I paid the price for it. So that's gonna do it for me. Although I hated that I had to come to the extreme measures of retaliating, which most people know that's not me, but it's what it is. But for the most part, that last race, even though I came in last, that last race was actually kind of fun. I'd rather come in last in a clean race than to win a dirty race. I mean, when you get a good clean race, that's all you can ask for. And so that last race on GT7 was a rarity. At least for me it was. So thanks for watching, everybody. It is Wednesday. I don't know if I'll be back between now and Saturday, but I can definitely tell you that I will be back Saturday to do the 1 hour endurance race on Race Room. It is a 1 hour endurance race at Silverstone with hypercars and GT3s. And this time I'm going to put up a poll and let you guys choose the GT3 car that I drive. Surprisingly, Race Room, they've got a few GT3s, but not all of them. They've got the Porsche, the Audi, the Lamborghini, the AMG, and the Ferrari. Now I think they might have like a BMW M3 car or something like that. I think they got some older GT3s on there. So in any case, I'll put up a poll, and even if only one person votes, the most votes wins, and I will drive that car because I don't have enough time in Race Room to know the characteristics of the different cars on that game. Whereas whereas Le Mans Ultimate, the cars that I use the most, I've got an idea of how they behave. So all right, folks, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And if I don't see you before Saturday, I will definitely see you Saturday. And the race, the 1 hour endurance race on Race Room this Saturday, it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I will be going live at like 15 minutes before the race. So please tune in. I hope to see you all then. Thank you so much. New subscribers, DD, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. With that being said, I'm going to boogie on out of here. Thanks for watching. And until the next time, you all know the line. Wakanda forever. Long live the king, and deuces. We'll see everybody. Have a good one.